So I want to talk about this tweet that I saw today.
Yeah.
And this is something that I do see more and more of.
Let me look it up because you sent it to me earlier.
Yeah, so I'll put this up on the screen. This guy tweeted today that Las Vegas has no future. It is now officially another uninhabitable hellhole. Las Vegas hit 120 degrees. So it's not like this is all like hyperbolic. I mean, 120 degrees is crazy. This guy goes on. It is a massive drain on the dying Colorado River. It is a
Oh
massive
man,
drain on
don't
the
get me
power grid to
fucking
feed those
started
hungry
about the
AC
Colorado
units.
River.
I want to talk about that a little bit in a second here. But and Las Vegas should never have existed. Nothing personal. Personal. This guy says. So I mean,
Toss LA and toss LA, toss Tucson, toss fucking the entire state of New Mexico. I mean, I could go on, dude.
yeah, and this guy does. He has another tweet that he highlights that I'll just read partly from. Las Vegas, Phoenix, and so many other U.S. cities are done, finished. They don't need to be abandoned. They will be abandoned by their own people. Humans need water for drinking, for food, etc. He goes on. Okay, so like I live in Sacramento right now, and it was so hot on Saturday. I think it hit 115. My family and I got a hotel room because we have like an upstairs and it just gets so hot to sleep here. We were like, okay,
Whoa.
we're out for a night. We're gonna go get a hotel room. And we had a pool, we
That's so
swam in a
cute.
rooftop
I
pool.
love that.
It was like a mini vacation. It was wonderful and lovely, but we
What a
can't do that
beautiful
every
way to
day.
deal with the dystopian reality of climate change.
Exactly. But it's like we shouldn't need to do that, right? We shouldn't necessarily need to, I don't know, spend hundreds of dollars to escape our own home because
You
it's
ever heard
that
of
goddamn
a
hot.
fucking air
And
conditioner,
Sacramento is
Pete?
not even, what's that?
You ever heard of a little thing called the air conditioner?
We have an air conditioner, but
The
like
poor thing. It's just maxed out.
we have an old home that's not very well insulated, and we have an
There you go.
upstairs. Our bedrooms are upstairs, and like heat
Right.
rises. I mean, like
Yeah,
story tells
yeah,
itself.
yeah.
I did live in Sacramento in my youth, like on a third story, no AC, and I did
Mm.
like survive. Like you can
Didn't
make it
we
through.
all?
And we should also mention the fact that still way more people die in the cold than the heat. The heat gets all
Yeah,
the headlines, but people die
right,
actually from freezing to death. That's like the real headline that no one ever talks about.
right.
But okay, I want to get your thoughts on this, and I actually
Oh,
want to spend a little bit of time pushing back on this narrative that this guy is pushing. But like, let me get your thoughts.
oh, we're gonna go head to head on this one then because
I think so. This is why I want to talk about this. Yeah.
it's funny that you brought this up. This is a diatribe that I will just kind of randomly get onto if anything tangentially related comes up because it makes me so angry. You know that everywhere south of Colorado, including LA. So you look at the Colorado River and how it flows down from the Continental Divide to through all of the rivers and tributaries throughout the Rocky Mountains, and then it flows south, right? Well, the Colorado River is diverted to provide water to every single major southern city from Colorado to LA. And we're talking about LA also takes water from the Colorado River. Somehow we make sure that water gets from the Continental Divide in Colorado to Los Angeles, California, which, by the way, is stealing water from two different places. It's stealing water from the Colorado River, and it's also stealing water from the Klamath River and the Klamath Dam.
There's a good movie about this.
Dude, and it's like it's the most environmentally criminal thing I've ever seen in my fucking life. I really hope that some kind of ecological catastrophe happens in the southern part of the United States that renders it legitimately uninhabitable for humans, because it is a travesty, dude, to be stealing that much fucking water from somewhere that like
It's
maybe
not
had
stealing though. Like your language here is doing a little bit of too much work. It's not like certainly it was stolen
Oh,
at
I'm
some
sorry.
level. That's what Chinatown is all
Diverting?
about.
Would you prefer diversion to
So
theft?
this is one of the earliest technologies that humans ever developed was diverting water.
Aqueducting. Sure,
Yeah, I mean
sure.
this is like ancient technology. There's no way that any country ever doesn't do this. Every country does this, and like to
Too
like
true.
frame that in a
Too
negative
true.
light is just like the most anti-human thing ever. So like being at all remotely pro-human is being pro diverting water. Stealing is what is happening over right now with the Nile, because then you don't just have like states involved, you have countries involved.
Sure.
And like it's a lot of the Nile is being diverted, and like it could cause massive famines in Egypt, and there might be wars happening in the next couple of years over that. And we don't have to worry about that because Colorado is not going to war with LA. They're just going to like have, you know, some contracts that they might have to work out or something in the future. But can I drop a little fact here that might slightly reframe it?
Sure.
No one knows this. For some reason, no one knows this. But Phoenix today uses less water than it did in 1990, even though it has 400,000 more people.
That's cool. That makes sense. I mean, we've gotten more efficient with the way that we use water.
Like the efficiency of this. Like, I mean, it would be worse if we had 400,000 fewer people, but we still had the technology of the 1990s.
But let me ask you this, Pete. Why do people need to live in the middle of the desert? What is it about the middle of the desert that people find that needs to be? Why do we need to live there?
Most of the Earth, basically all the Earth at some level, is uninhabitable. We have made it inhabitable.
True.
And again, people don't really die from the heat unless the wet bulb temperature gets it, which you don't get the wet bulb temperature in dry climate, dry. You get that in humid climates. So no one needs to die in Phoenix. People are going to die from the heat in places where you are going to hit the wet bulb. And so this is a lot of like India, for example, Middle East. But people die from the cold. Again, it just doesn't, we don't talk about, but like, think about like, we talk about how like Phoenix is uninhabitable. Look at Minnesota. You cannot live in Minnesota where it gets negative 20 degrees. No one can live there, except that they can because
but water, but it's like the difference between protecting yourself from the cold and protecting yourself from the heat is like the resource intensiveness of it, right? Like protecting yourself from the heat requires basically water. You just can't. And like Minnesota is awash in water. They're burning fossil fuels to keep warm, but they have all of the things that they technically need to stay alive right there, which is not the case in a place that has a desperately hot climate where they're having to import things to stay alive. I mean, if you wanted to stay alive in Minnesota and you didn't want to import oil from somewhere, there's 15 different ways to do that. But if you want to stay alive in Arizona and you don't want to import water, it's impossible.
I mean, if China stopped importing its fertilizer, 1/3 of their population would die next year. So this is just the modern world we live in.
But water is different, man. Like water is a resource
like why? Like why though? Like is water like
because we haven't
gotten than the nitrogen you need to grow plants to keep people alive? Because like you need food
because we don't know how to synthesize it yet. Look, man, once we learn how to synthesize water, we'll be in a completely different scenario. But just to have a 30-second diversion on why.
Like potash comes from a couple different places on the planet. It has to be imported to China. China does not have the potash, and they can't just make it. You know what I mean? So it is actually a very, very comparable thing, I would argue. Food and water. You need food and water. Right?
Yeah, the thing is with crop production, though, it takes me a second to kind of digest all of the meta information that's involved in that stuff. But like, there's a lot of different ways to get nitrogen, right? Like potash isn't the only source of nitrogen. It's just a great available source of nitrogen. Like you could take seeds and you could grow a crop over the top of that would completely enrich the soil with nitrogen in a single rotation, right? Like you can re-enrich soil with nitrogen in literally a million different ways. If you want to be a monocrop civilization that rapes your land, then you need to import a bunch of white powder to make the land viable every year. But it's not a problem it's a problem with the systematic nature of farming. It's not really a problem with like the materials involved.
No, I know, but like when the brass tacks is that millions and millions, like literally billions of people will die if we just stop giving them nitrogen and potash. Like billions of and I know there's more sustainable farming, but like we're talking like 50 years of technology that we need to get going right now, and it's not like we don't want billions of people to die. And I don't know, like I'm gonna let's bring it back to let's say Nevada and Las Vegas. So I'm going off just the tweet thread here, but apparently someone responded that Nevada, the entire state, is allotted 1.8% of the water from the Colorado River. So we're not actually like talking about a lot. Like I would have guessed maybe 20%. Las Vegas, 20% is like 1.8%, assuming this is accurate.
But along the path that water is diverted, like maybe they only use that much, but like how much of it is lost, right? Like how much of the overall output of the Colorado River is lost to diversion? Because I think that's probably the more salient statistic, because a lot of that water is probably lost to evaporation on the way there.
The thing that you're going to win here is that the Colorado River is dying, and it's not like,
I mean, it's getting bled dry. Literally, it's getting bled dry by 4 different states that don't have their own water table. And I'm just like, that's where the federal system starts to break down, is that like, you know, baby New Mexico and baby Arizona are allowed to, and baby Nevada are allowed to ask for water from Daddy America. And because we're so obsessed with letting people do whatever the fuck they want, we're like, yeah, you can live wherever you want. We'll just make sure that you get water to there because you're an American. And it's like, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense, man. Water is hard to get. Like we live in a world where we are imagining that there's an abundance of water when there's an extreme scarcity of fresh water. And like water as a molecule, back to the thing I was saying a minute ago, we don't get it. We still don't understand how it works. Like we cannot synthesize water.
But we can move it around. We can move water around.
We can move it around, but we still don't understand how to make it. And like, and desalination really isn't at the point yet where it's viable in any functional way for like a society. And so it's like, man, it's the one thing that we can't make any more of yet. We don't know how it works, and we're losing it all the time. And it's like, well, you got to protect it then, dude. It's like a forest, you know? It's like we have national forests because we realized at some point, like, oh, well, we can't replant all of these old growth trees. We need to protect them. Water has to be protected too. And not to mention this, dude, if we're protecting water, why are we letting people bottle fucking water? Like, why are we letting people bottle water in this country for basically free? Like, water needs to go on a whole different schedule of legislation in this country where it's like way more judiciously legislated how it's used and who's allowed to have it.
Okay, so I do agree with bottled water, like absolutely, like it makes no sense, and people shouldn't even drink bottled water. It's a disgrace for a lot of reasons. Mostly
and
like
Nestle, by and large, one of the biggest bottled water companies in the world, takes free tap water or tap water that they're getting for like a cent per gallon or something like that, and then goes and resells it because they've got all these municipal contracts. It's just like water legislation is patently insane in this country, and it has to change.
Well, okay, so let's. I want to pull back a little bit and do my like futurist hat here. There's 2 ways to look at any problem in the world. There is the mindset of abundance or the mindset of scarcity. You right now are like representing scarcity.
You've been reading The Secret, Peter.
We have way more fresh water than we ever need. We could ever conceivably imagine using. It's just in the wrong places at the wrong times. It really is just a moving. And so right now, like the focus is on the Colorado River because like it just happens to be located there. But I mean, this is like a Bill Maher sketch, and it's kind of like silly. But like think about this just for a second. Every year, the East Coast, eastern half of like just on the east side of the Mississippi River gets way more water than they need. Too much. It is a big problem. Their cities flood every single year, multiple times.
True.
On the west side of the Mississippi River, opposite problem, not enough rain, and there's like droughts every year. Hello, like move the water, guys. Move it. Don't just move it like from one fucking river. Move it like east to west, and we can do this. Like it's not like we can't do that. It's just like there's a price tag on it. Also,
But there's also
desalination
like,
right now has a lot of problems, but like it also like think again, like don't think like think of abundance mindset, guys. The ocean is right fucking there. We have not solved the problem yet. There are 8 desalination plants off the coast of California that are not active right now
Mhm,
because of like environmental impacts, and we just don't
right?
need it that badly. We actually do have way more than enough water, even in California.
Yeah.
70% of the water in California goes to agriculture and like growing almonds and shit that we don't fucking need to grow here. So like
Yeah.
we actually have so much water, it's crazy. We just don't use it too smartly.
Well, we
But
don't
like
legislate
there
it
are
correctly.
answers, like there are solutions here. And I think that the thing to be doing is to not say like there is a world in which we just let cities die. There is a world in which we just say like, sorry guys, Phoenix is full. Like
Yeah.
there's a world and like there I'm not saying we're never going to come to that. I think that we might at some level just because of certain factors of
We'd
climate
be in a
change.
pretty desperate situation if we were impinging on people's personal freedom like that. We hate doing that in this country. Well,
Yeah.
in certain situationally.
Right, right. I mean, it's kind of like move at your own risk or something.
But here's the
But
thing. Oh, go ahead.
well, my very last point here, just I
Yeah.
do want to bring that home just a teeny bit,
Yeah.
is that like in prime real estate on Long Island and like Nantucket and places like this, where like you can buy a home for like $50 million. Those $50 million homes, a lot of them right now are going for like $200,000 because they're being swallowed by the ocean. And the government has actually tried to save some of those communities by spending. There was the New York Times had an article last year about like some communities spent it might have been, goddamn, it might have been $5 billion. It's some crazy number to save one of these communities. And it was like, sorry, the ocean just came in and like fucked that up. And then they lost that money and the community is still being swallowed whole by the ocean. There is a
Yeah.
point, and this is where like I'm arguing with you, Devin, but I do like there's a point where I totally am
Please.
really like agree with you. You know what I mean? And like
Mm-hmm.
that is the forces of nature are just like at some level too strong for our budget. Maybe we could overpower them if we just like spent every ounce of our human ingenuity on it, but like we're not gonna. So we might just let certain cities fucking die, like we're letting some islands or some communities on Long Island die. That could actually be a thing.
Well,
I don't think we're there yet though.
I think one of like to kind of migrate back to one of the first points that you made, we don't have a sufficiently advanced computing power to fully model the knock-on effects of moving a bunch of water somewhere, right? Like we have to think a little bit about the ecological knock-on effects of doing something drastic like that, because it's like you take it out of one place where it's been going for a million years and you put it into somewhere where it hasn't been, and you don't know exactly what that's going to do. I mean, eventually we'll have AIs that are powerful enough to model what happens when you do that over the course of 10 or 15 or 20 or, but there's so many thousands and thousands of factors that go into doing something that's ecologically, it's like, dude, you need a permit to move more than 10 yards of dirt in California because they don't want you to start the process of erosion in your like micro area, right? It's like
Yeah.
we're pretty good at legislating the way that people move earth here in California, and to some degree water, and it's like that's a framework that needs to spread across the United States. We have to have, I'm like, on danger of being accused of being a lazy hippie. Like we just need to be a little bit, we have to have some level of accord with the natural environment where it's like, yeah, sure, we can spend a lot of resource and time like living in a place that's uninhabitable, but the country is unbelievably inhabitable. I mean, I look at houses all the time in like Kansas that are like 25 grand and it's like a pretty nice place to live. It's greenish, there's water around. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not close to anything cool. It's like
Yeah, it's like just look at home insurance prices and like that will tell you where you should live. It's
yeah, man.
very
I mean,
clear. It's like don't live in Florida because
and if
home
you're going to
insurance
live in
prices are crazy high.
Arizona, wouldn't you rather live somewhere that's got grass? I mean, it's not different. Living in Kansas, it's the same flat fucking
I
prairie.
mean, Arizona's beautiful. Have you ever driven through? It's
Yeah,
so
Kansas is
pretty.
pretty,
Like
man.
if you're into
Yeah,
like
Arizona
if
is
you're into
really pretty.
deserts, it's
But a lot
so
of
beautiful.
people
It's
that
like
are living in
crazy beautiful.
Arizona they're not fucking avid hikers, dude. You
No,
know what I'm saying?
no. Oh,
But
dude.
like,
They
yeah,
move there because
so
home prices are cheap, which is like, again, it is
right.
another human problem. Like, hey, let's just make I don't know, Monterey houses affordable or something, and then everyone will like prefer to live in Monterey. You know what I mean?
We've
Like
got to
it's
have some.
65 degrees there today, and it's like 109 in Sacramento.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we've got to have some kind of conversation, like as a society too, as a nation, where we're going like, hey, I'm not going to subsidize your free will, right? Like, I just don't like that we do that so much in this country. Like the community on the beach, we're like, oh, we're going to subsidize your free will to live here. And it's like, nah, we should subsidize survival. That's it, right? Like we should subsidize your ability to survive within the boundaries of what we can afford. Because like at the end of the day, if we're diverting all these resources, this water, we have to build all this crazy infrastructure to allow you to exercise your free will to live in the middle of the desert. I mean, that's just, why are we doing that?
Maybe I actually have 2 points. One, I want to come back to something you said earlier about being smart and having regulations about this. There is this video by Real Life Lore, great YouTube account, big account. He did this video recently about, I believe there was this big lake in Kazakhstan that Russia, when they were the USSR, they just like completely drained all the water out of it. And so like now it's like mega acidic, or I mean, I'm getting the details wrong here, but like the lake is dead or like dying. And that is going to cause a lot of ripple effects that we're already seeing in like multiple countries around this lake. And Russia just like utterly fucked it up and then just like pieced out. And now all these countries are having water shortages because Russia took their lake away effectively. Right. So like, and like that comes down to just, I mean, that's malicious intent probably at some level by Russia, but you got to do these things smart. I was literally channeling Bill Maher on part of my rant there, and I know he's not thinking about this intelligently, but I do think that we should think optimistically but intelligently.
Yeah, same. We can't just let people do whatever the fuck they want, man, because it ends up costing society too much to let people do that. And like we legislate
this is a little bit of my point.
In this country. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I do think that we should let people live wherever they want. The second you start doing that to some level, but you highlighted the thing there. It's like we shouldn't subsidize it. If you want to, sure.
Oh,
but
go build an off-grid cabin. Yeah, go. There's solar. You can do it all by yourself now. You don't need a municipal septic, electricity, and water system to keep your little dumbass alive. If you're smart enough to keep your little dumbass alive in the middle of nowhere. But, exactly, we're over here like it's fucking WALL-E, like we got these people propped up on moving wheelchairs and they're scooting around fucking Tucson 120 degrees, It's like, what the fuck?
Oh, God, I know. There's a part of me, Devin, I argue that as strongly as I could. There's a part of me that I am literally like, okay, because again, I'm in Sacramento right now. It's hot as fuck the last couple of days.
Arrakis.
Having like a mega. This is the thing about heat, dude. Because I know, like, I'm counterpointing my talking points here, but like, the cold, when it's really cold, and yeah, people die from the cold, etc. But like, the cold doesn't make people insane.
They just
if you're
bundle
in the
up.
Heat, you go crazy.
Oh my
God,
like
you
dude.
Lose your
Sac
mind.
Sac is crazy. Sac is so nuts when it's hot outside. Like, it's crazy, dude.
And it's like actually reflected in data. Like crime goes way up when the temperatures explode. Like, and you feel it. You're walking down the street and you feel it. Like, man, you have like out of body experiences because you're so uncomfortable and you're literally just like walking down the block. And it's like, it's you feel like breaking shit. You know what I mean? Dude. Like you get delirious. Yeah.
And you've got an ice cold river next to you. Imagine if you were somewhere where there was no water anywhere to be found. Fuck that, dude. You're an idiot. If you live, here's my hot take. If you live in LA, Arizona, or New Mexico, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you're so in danger of being a victim of whatever natural disaster happens. Like, as soon as a natural disaster happens in any of those areas, do you know what kind of fucking bedlam there's going to be? Because the hardest thing to do is going to be find drinking water. It'll be unbelievable how fast those places will devolve into chaos because they're going to run out of water right away. They're going to have to go fucking 2 states over to survive.
You know the crazy thing though, because I always think about this. Then I'll let this topic die. But like,
Yeah.
I do always think about like people hate on California, Arizona. They're just like obvious, right? But
Right.
every like maybe not every, but basically every part of the country has something that could be that. Like Florida and the Gulf Coast has
Tornadoes,
hurricanes.
floods, hurricanes, earthquakes.
California has earthquakes. A lot of other places have earthquakes. The whole entire Midwest can be leveled at any second by tornadoes.
Tornadoes.
Any second they can get
Yeah.
you. And then on the West Coast, like Washington State and Oregon, they also have earthquakes. And the big one is going to happen there, where it's going to completely crater off like a lot of that. I mean,
Here
civilization
too.
is going to be done when the big
Yeah.
one happens out there. The plate or the shelf thing falls, whatever it is. And then in Montana, like like nice peaceful Montana, they have the Yellowstone geyser that could blow up half of the United States at some level. So
It's
I mean,
also just super extreme in Montana. I mean, like, it's 40 below in the winter there, bro.
yeah.
40
Oh God. I can't
below.
even put my mind around that.
But I don't know, man. Let me just, because I'll put my wax stamp on this one. There's got to be a re-legislation of the way that we live in this country, and it has to take into account naturalism in a way that doesn't reference climate change. Okay, that's my take. I don't even think it's a hot take. I think we need to let go of the idea of climate change because it's ineffective. It's a political non-starter. It's too triggering for both sides. We need to re-embrace the FDR era kind of understanding of the importance of naturalism, protecting it, and keeping it sanctified in a fundamental way. And we need to rope water in. Maybe this is my hot take, that water should be included in the way that we understand like the national park system, and we should have like a national water protection organization or agency that specifically only deals with fresh water, where it flows, how it comes to those places, and how we protect it if efficiently until it gets to the ocean and it's not our job anymore. And I think that would alleviate a lot of the unneeded stress that's on our water table system in the United States in terms of specifically bottled water companies pulling trillions of gallons of water out of the ground every year probably, and introducing, probably billions of pounds of plastic into our society every year. Like, they're doing two evils.
And plastic that people are just ingesting willfully from plastic bottles too. I mean, this is I love that. I think I sign on to all of that. My one caveat there too is I think that people like you and me can also make just like little teeny cultural signals to make it so that people don't buy plastic water bottles anymore.
Agree.
And things like, because I mean, like, it's a cultural thing. Like I have people in my family who don't drink water at all unless it's out of a plastic bottle at all. They just don't do. They drink no water that doesn't come from one of those
Unreal.
shitty bottles.
I
And
almost
I
guarantee you they're
shame them like as
systematically
much as I can.
dehydrated.
But like my father-in-law comes over and every time he brings me a plastic water bottle as like an FU, you know what I mean? Like a subtle ha FU, because he knows it bugs me so much. But like I have definitely put that bug in his brain that this is just dumb and bad for your health and dumb for the environment and like too expensive and so many reasons just don't do this. And like that bug's in his head, you know what I mean? And like maybe he's not going to activate immediately, but it's there. And I think that's just like doing that, and culture needs to change a little bit around some of these things. Also, maybe don't move to Arizona and buy. Yeah, I'm okay maybe if you live like downtown Phoenix, but don't be like doing the thing where you have to like drive 2 hours to your office in some utterly shitty suburb of like, don't do that. It's bad for your health, bad for the environment, bad for your lifestyle. Don't do that.
Just
shame on that.
Yeah, man. Re-legislate water in this country. Absolutely start a cultural movement. We have a pretty good cultural movement started around like not doing bottled water anymore. I've got a Berkey and a bunch of stainless steel containers, filter my own water, use as much as I need.
Yeah.
Like that's what we should all be trying to do. We should all be trying to drink. And like, yeah, I don't know. Like the stepdad example or the father-in-law example. It's like corporations have been really good at convincing us to have this very masculine tact towards danger, where they're
Yeah.
just like, it'll be fine. And I can't tell you on job sites when I was younger, as a younger man, learning how to be a carpenter and stuff, it was just how many times somebody looked at something patently unsafe and looked at me and went, it'll be fine. Just go ahead and take care of it. And it's like, yeah, the whole idea of it'll be fine. It's like if you're saying that, there's something not fine about it. You know what I mean? And like I think that like with bottled water, like this whole thing of like, how much could it hurt? I'm like, I don't know, man. You remember how in the 50s and 60s, like all these babies got born deformed from the birth control that they told you would be fine? Or like, I could do
lead and paint.
I was like, I could do like a 15-minute list of ways that corporations have tried to convince you that it'll be fine. And it ended up killing sometimes tens of thousands of people. So it's like, it's not going to be fine. The phthalates and all the shit that's in the microplastics that are in bottles are fucking killing you, no matter how tough a dude you think you are, dude.
Yeah.
Like they're not squaring up with you, they're eroding your fucking meat from the inside out. So
Totally.
whatever, dude.